Did someone say it's time for a Thanksgiving episode at the cabin? I think so. Okay, so welcome back to the cabin once again for my Thanksgiving edition. So I have a confession to make. I've never cooked a turkey. This is my very first turkey. Here I am, 50 years old. I've been married so long that my wife always cooked the turkey. And in years past, I always just go visit friends and family for Thanksgiving. So I've never actually cooked a turkey myself. And I'm gonna try to do this one in the fireplace. So I can't promise success. Oh, to top it off, I invited 4 friends over this evening for a turkey dinner. My responsibility for this meal is that turkey and 2 loaves of sourdough bread. I've got the sourdough bread. I've done that many of times in the wood-fired oven in the backyard. But today, for this video, for this Thanksgiving meal, I'm gonna use the wood-fired cook stove, which is not running yet. The bread isn't even mixed up yet. So come along with me. Give me grace if you're a cook and I'm doing something that you don't do, because quite honestly, this is my first time. I'm gonna spend the evening with my friends here. They're gonna bring over all the side dishes. For this evening, a fun, you could say experiment, because we're using a Salter's warranted spit jack. The turkey will hang from this rod off of the spit jack, which is, if you don't know anything about these, they're from the 1800s. They're clock mechanism crank. I've tested this one. It turns for about an hour, which is really good for as old as it is. It turns for about an hour without having to crank again. So I got that and the crank and the turkey and some stuff to make stuffing. We're just gonna jump into this, and I'm gonna get busy putting this thing together and get it on there so I can have it done before they get here. Actually, it's hanging really nice and straight. Yeah, that's real nice. I love how it's hanging. That's just a chicken broth. I like to think that a lot of pioneer men didn't know what they were doing and just had to figure it out. So that's kind of what we're doing. Turkey too, by the way, is farm raised, local. A friend of mine raises turkeys, and I bought the turkey from her. Okay, the Salter's warranted spit jack. So it's hand crank, clockwork mechanism. When I picked this up, the crank was gone, as they always are. So I just adapted a socket to fit it. And you just don't want to over crank it. That's probably plenty. And that's about what I normally do. And it gave me about an hour of spin time without a big bird on it, though. I probably had 4 or 5 pounds on it. Now, it doesn't turn until you get some weight on it. So put a hook under the mantle, so this will hang a little bit higher so it's not down real close to the heat. And then I built this rod mechanism to hold the bird. So same reason, just a cast iron pan on the floor to catch the drippings and keep it off of the stone. And let's just hope it turns good. Now it should stop and go the other way. Okay, so that's the first step. Now, if I leave that bird there like that, there's too much air coming through the house and going past that bird that it's actually going to cool it off. So what I made was this copper shield. Now I know you won't be able to see the bird at this second, but I'm gonna bring you over closer. So I made this copper shield that will reflect the heat back onto the bird and kind of make this into an oven. Now, if you know anything at all about airflow and smoke, and like if you stand close to a fire, how the smoke is drawn toward you, it's because the air is flowing around you and bringing the smoke back in. This does the exact same thing. So what's happening now is all the air that's going into my fireplace is hitting the shield and going around the shield. And when it gets to the fire, it's drawing that heat back into that enclosure we just made. So that will help that bird stay much hotter. I would like this bird to cook for 4 or 5 hours. Okay, so if I don't hurry up and get some bread mixed up, we're not gonna have any bread for supper tonight. So I think it's important, though, to understand that bread is the most simple of things to bake. Everybody makes it way more difficult than it really is. It really, honestly, is only 2 ingredients, and that's flour and water. And then when you add in the yeast, you get something that rises. Flour and water gives you a flatbread, and then adding in the yeast will give you something that rises. And then from there you get, by adding in lard or some type of shortening, you get flavor and the longevity of the bread. So like with today's bread that's in the markets, there's just so much preservative, so much fat in there. We are going to put a little bit for flavor. And I'm also going to add some butter to my bread as I make it. I am using sourdough, so it's going to be a sourdough bread. And then salt, of course, for flavor. It also helps with the bread to rise a little bit more. But we're not going to measure anything. Here we go. I'm going to try to bake 2 loaves of bread, roughly in the 3 pounds a piece. So give and take the water, I need about 4.5 pounds of flour probably. If I have a little extra, that's okay. And if I don't have enough, that's okay. There's only 5 of us, so if I'm looking at that, that's more than enough bread for 5 people. Some lard, some butter softened, some water, and some sourdough starter. Now I've been feeding that for a couple days. All right, now let's just get it all mixed together. I am pushed for a little bit of time here, so the water is definitely warm. Lukewarm. Okay, I think that's close enough that I can get my hands dirty. Turn it out onto my breadboard, and I can work it better if it's not in that bowl. So what I normally do, and I'm getting close, I can feel the lumps going away, is just keep working that back and forth. But I've got a toy over there that I haven't showed on my channel yet, and I think it's a good opportunity to show it. So let's go over it. It's like an 1890s, one of the very first electric dough makers. So let's drop that in there and make some dough. All right, here we go. Now, I found this in an antique shop and it was all busted up. It had fallen over and the back shield was broke. The gears in this thing are still wooden. All I did was restored the gears the way they were. So anyway, let's just get mixing. Okay, we're just going to get this put in the bowl. I should be able to break that into 2 loaves of bread. And we're just going to do traditional hearth loaves. So I'm going to put that in there. All right, I'm just going to cover that with some lard just so it don't dry out on me. And we're going to cover it and let it go for a while. So, okay, it's probably been about an hour and the turkey is cooking really good. You can see how it's already starting to brown. I've got some stuff that I'm going to baste it with here shortly, but I'm not quite ready for that yet. Just letting it cook. I'm just trying to keep a fire back there, kind of away from it a little bit. I still have, I don't even know, I probably still have 4 hours, 5 hours before that. It's cooking beautifully. What do you think, Lavender? Huh? That looks like supper, doesn't it? I don't know, but I'm pretty impressed. I guess I didn't know what to expect, but it is really cooking nice. Boy, it's turning out beautiful. I was a little worried when I first made this shield if it would be hot when I picked it up, but it hasn't been hot at all. So, thankful for that. The stuffing's actually looking pretty good too. My basting broth is just some butter, some different dressings that I had, some chicken broth, and then whatever's been running out of the bird. I figure most of it's just going to run off. I'm basically just using it for some salt too. I'm just using it to keep the bird moist, so. Some of my friends have sent me pictures of what they're making and everything's looking great, so I'm really looking forward to this, to spend time with my friends that I don't get to see very often, to cook a bird in front of the fireplace. I guess life just doesn't get a whole lot better than that, does it? Boy, it hasn't risen much at all. It will, though. Have faith. Okay, what I like to do is take a linen cloth, put it right in a strainer, Add just a little bit of flour to it. So it doesn't stick. And the side that goes down is going to be the top. So I'm going to drop this nice side down that I've tucked this. The other side is the top. It's cold out today. Cold days like today are the absolute hardest to get bread to rise. Okay, it's time to get the cook stove fired up, and I need to put a couple more logs on this too. I'm gonna leave that there for now. I'm gonna put the big one in here. The piece of metal I just bounced off of, I don't know if you know what that is, but that's a fire back. It kind of protects that stone back there from getting too much heat from this intense heat that's real low. That's the hottest place, because as the air goes across the floor, it really penetrates deep into the stone there. So that's what that's there for. Anyway, time to fire this up. I need to make sure my damper is open and back is open for this one. I also have another damper here that goes to the pipe. I need to make sure that's open, and it is. Now, because I've got the fireplace going, typically I just rob some ashes from it. It gets a little bit of smoke in the house, but I don't really care. So let's get that fired. Depending on what I've got in there, sometimes I'll just take a scoop of ashes, or sometimes I'll grab a piece of log out of there. But I've got a really nice piece right here that should fit in there really nicely. And I've got a dog sleeping at the floor here. I got to be careful. So I'll put that one in there. Cover the back. Get a little bit more heat up in that chimney. It's starting to go. Of course, I don't want to take too much away from the bird, but I think what I'm going to do, Archie just jumped out of the loft. I will get that on camera one of these days for you. I'm going to just grab a shovel full of this really hot stuff. Now I won't have any problem getting it going. Drop those few in there. Give it some air and we're good to go. Logs on the bird. Well, dinner's at 6 o'clock. It's 4:40 now. Bird is looking really good. I can't imagine it's not getting close to being done. get this bread in there real quick. We are not gonna have bread for supper tonight. So, it rose pretty good. I think it should be good. Get rid of some of that. Fire. I'm gonna say my loaf is a little heavier than I wanted to, being stuck just a little bit. Being it's a little more than 3 pounds like I wanted, it's probably closer to 4.5, 5 pounds. Now if I can just get it not to split or not to drop until I get it in there. Okay, I'm not gonna mess around, I'm just getting it in there. Okay, I'm closing in on my last half hour. The bird is looking really good. Oh boy, it smells good too. Okay. Get her covered back up. The bread is definitely cooking a little faster than I want. And I can't have that door touch me. So that's why it's okay to open the door every once in a while. Let a little cool air in there, cool it off a little bit. I should be okay, but it's definitely gonna be, it's gonna be well done. Come on, be good. Oh, what you got? An arrangement.
Yeah, they're my birthday flowers. They need water.
Oh, they need water.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Quit, Lavender. Gosh. Lavender. The bread is done. My company got here and nothing was done yet. So I had to move the turkey from the rotisserie into the wood-fired oven and really crank the heat up. There you go. So let's wrap up this video. Things I learned. Cooking turkeys are hard. Anybody who's ever put together a Thanksgiving feast for someone and done it all by themselves, I only was in charge of 2 things, the turkey and the bread. I burnt the bread, almost didn't get the turkey done. I mean, when my friends started to get to the house here, I was so nervous because that turkey was still about 7 or 8 degrees below what I wanted it, yet I've been cooking it for hours, and I just was getting frustrated, and it got to the point that I even shut the camera off, and I'm like, enough filming, I'm just done with this. And so I wound up moving that bird, as you've seen, I wound up moving the bird over to the wood-fired oven and really getting a lot of heat on the breast meat. And what happened was that the bracket that I made was a little too close to the pan, so it was reflecting away a little bit of the heat at that lower level, and I needed to lift it up a little bit. But in the moment, I mean, I didn't know. I was just going with what I was, using the concept behind. Okay, this is how this works. So I did it, and I was trying to push the bread, as you've seen, and I burnt the first loaf, and the second loaf is this one, and it's perfect. So for me, at the end, I was getting really frustrated. But when my friends got here and they all assured me everything was fine, let's just let's just run with it, And we had time to talk while the bird was finishing up, and it come out of the oven, and it was just so perfect. The whole bird was so moist, and this loaf of bread was perfect, and everything they brought and their company, and I think it really reminded me, myself personally, be thankful for what you got. We didn't even carve this loaf. We wound up eating this one. I am cutting that loaf of bread though. In my video with my mom, I talked about coffee soup and how you can't get bread anymore in the store anyway to make coffee soup, because coffee soup is made with stale, day-old bread or so. this bread, being that we had it last night for a couple days, for the rest of today, I left this one sit out last night, so it's probably pretty stale on the inside, but will make absolutely perfect coffee soup. So that's something I haven't had since I was probably 8 or 10 years old. We're going to carve it up, and I'm going to have me some coffee soup. The fellowship with my friends around the kitchen table and just talking about life in general. If my struggle wouldn't have been there, if they would have got here and everything would have been fine and perfect, it would have been, I don't know that it would have been so good. So anyway, my wrap up on this is just be thankful for that burnt loaf of bread, I guess. Be thankful for the things that maybe don't go so great in your life, because in general, it's still life, it's still friends, it's still family. So that's how I'm going to leave this. See you on the next episode. I have no idea what it's going to be, but I'm sure something will come.